Hello, and welcome to Greet the Week. I'm Mona Duncan. Our topic today is on not taking it personally. And the thing of it is that once we genuinely accept something, in a sense, it's no longer an issue. Uh, that may sound a little crazy, but so let me bring up the screen here to share maybe some words that would not be easily understood. I've noticed that before sometimes whenever someone is speaking what they, anyway, maybe it's a little bit more understandable if you can actually read what I'm saying. So, welcome and learning to not take it personally. Taking it personally is whenever we think what is being said is denigrating us, that that maybe then would anger it or not be believed. So, a little poem that I had written, kind of going in hand with this, and don't take it personally, in a book that I'd written, and that's the chapter. And the high road is the path less trod, steep upgrade and straight as a rod. Slights will come, and they give a stinging blow, and wounded deep, the hurt does flow. And so, whenever we are wounded, we are insulted, we are hurt, we are diminished, it can drive us to looking to a divine source or just realizing that we're thin skinned and we're being easily offended. And maybe, we can console ourselves, or we could talk with someone else. They could give us some insights as to what's going on. So I thought we'd look here just a minute to the all too often human condition and how we as human beings handle things until we learn to really make choices in life as opposed to just letting it happen and being angry over or okay with what happened. And that is that sometimes we're thin skinned, and in the process of that, it's kind of like being easily offended. And at the same time, thin skinned and hard hearted. I know for a long time I was that way, having little or no compassion for those that offended me, and then being angered or offended by unkind words or actions, and then kind of not caring, if they were offended or not. Well, so what? I was right. Uh, uh, and those negative reactions of getting even or doing one better. Thankfully, I don't think I've ever been that way. But it's in remembering and knowing that uh, I don't remember the Disney movie it was, but the song about a spoonful of sugar makes the medicine go down in a most delightful way. And as we can stop and look at things and say, who am I, and who is the ones that I am engaging with, that maybe, just maybe, we can let the good things rise and the negative things uh, go down in a delightful way. So Mahatma Gandhi made the comment and asking people to you be the change you want to see in the world. And so as we can embody what is truth, what we see as truth, it can be. And so we can choose to stop being offended. And it is a choice to stop being offended. My choice was to, instead of being thin skinned and hard hearted, was to become thick skinned and tender hearted, as in the thick skin indicating that if someone said something that was, kind of sassy or whatever, that I would not be offended by it. And so it's also to realize that whenever we become offended, we may be offended because there was a point to it, meaning that we were hit. Whether it was in the mind, whether it was in the heart, whether it was in the shoulder, whether it was something that, it was something that offended us. And it had a point to it because it was waiting. So, uh, if it has a point to it, realize that, maybe that point was for a purpose. And then it's knowing that hurt people hurt people. Whenever we are hurt, we have a tendency to hurt someone else. Whenever they are hurt, they have a tendency to hurt us. And it's kind of a deliberate thing. And so, in learning to not taking it personally and not being offended, it's to literally, in having our skin become a little thicker, it is literally to put on a protective vest so that it can be hit. It's like a police officer or the army people wearing a protective vest, and they can still be wounded, but maybe it won't hit the heart, and that there will be death there or a major wound. And so it's learning to develop compassion for the offenders, because hurt people and whole people heal people. So as we can begin to have compassion for those that are just having a compassion for them, and then whole people do heal people. So, well, this right here was supposed to come up with something else, but that's all right. I'll tell you when it's come up. We have been gifted with 5 senses. And those senses, whenever we were born, we could see with our eyes, we could hear, we could smell, we could taste, we could feel, being touched or being touched. And so it's a gift that we have been given these 5 senses. And these 5 senses then help us to begin to learn how to navigate through life, and also how to navigate with the people that we become involved with. And our feelings are the back wheels on the behavior car by Dr. William Glasser. And those front wheels are the thinking and the doing, and the back wheels include the feelings and the physiology. But those back wheels, sometimes it's like we are driving our car backward because we're just going with the feelings rather than with thinking and maturing and doing. And so those feelings we can be real fickle. And, we can be about something this minute and then go into something else another minute, something else another minute. And so sometimes we can begin to fabricate things that's going on about these feelings that we're having. They can be fictitious. They can often be quite false, because we act out of our own hurts until we really learn to mature, until we learn to not take things not take things seriously, not take things personally. And then that once we can genuinely accept what is, then it's just amazing how whatever that hurt or that wound or that difficulty has been, it just seems to kind of fade away. And so emotions cannot be valuing and devaluing at the same time. I mean, we can't be resting and we can't be lethargic and active at the same time. Now, here, this is supposedly, I got this off of the internet, and it has on there, whenever I turn that off, who came up with that little graphic. But I think of it as bookends. I like to look at life as being a bookend. And what's happening on one side and the other side, sometimes, I mean, you can't do both at the same time, but you can begin to come into the middle where you can begin to rationalize things, begin to look at them from a different point of view. Because it is easier to think and act your way into feeling differently than it is to put yourself into, to feel yourself into thinking differently. So it's always about choices and always about choices. So as we practice compassion over tolerance, now you can tolerate someone and still be very angry toward them or maybe even hate them. But having compassion is realizing the, it is recognizing humanity, that we are human beings. We are all human beings. And that we can disagree, but we can still respect the personhood of the person. And that compassion makes tolerance possible. As we have compassion for, we can be tolerant of without being really ugly about it. And that truth hurts only when it's supposed to. You know, if it goes back to the little graphic I had there a minute ago about the person being hit, if they were hit and they were, oh, ouch, that hurt. Well, there was a point to it. There was something that, you know, I mean, it hurt to find out that it hurts whenever it's supposed to, whenever it's for a reason there that we would be healthier, happier, more content, that we could be more humane, that we could be more a better worker if we would listen to the rules and the guidelines of life. And so if something hurts us, maybe it was for a positive in the long run. And then once something is genuinely accepted, in a sense, it ceases to be a problem. And that sounds real contradictory, but I have found it to be true in my life again and again and again and again and again. To truly accept how someone or something comes about and begins to be, in a sense, it has just ceased to be a big issue. And I put this quote here by Dolly Parton. I thought it was just really powerful. That Dolly says, I am not offended at the dumb blonde jokes. And apparently she's had a lot of them. In the first place, I know I'm not dumb. And in the second place, I also know that I'm not a blonde. And so if we're lying to ourselves and someone jabs us because we're lying to ourselves, it's time for us to put on that thick skin and keep a tender heart where we cannot be offended by someone maybe trying to offend us. And so, again, looking more at some choices and results, that we take comments seriously, but not personally. If someone, you know, is fussing at us or angry with us or just need to blow off steam, take what they say seriously, but don't let it be sinking into you and destroying you and wounding you personally. And listen to their words and filter out their perceived attitudes. You know, begin to see what we can see that maybe they can't see, or that what we can understand. What is our perceived attitudes toward them? Maybe we're being really ugly toward what they're saying, and they're speaking a whole lot of truth. And here's a quote by Marilyn Vos Savant, that is supposedly one of the smartest people in the world. And anyway, she has said, everyone who compliments me makes me feel good. And everyone who criticizes me makes me do better the next time. It is a no loss situation. And that just goes hand in hand with not taking things personally. If what is coming at you is being bombarded, it may have a smidgen of truth to it, but it may have a whole lot of lies or the way I see it or my attitude toward it or whatever. But if in those criticisms, help it to make you do better the next time. That it's something to learn about and be prepared for. So, some more choices and results is to be gracious. Be gracious. Grace is an attitude. It is a being gracious or ungracious. It transforms a tense moment into something softer, into something that's not quite as harsh, into something that is not quite as debilitating. Grace is kindness to the bad mood and it's politeness to the rude. It is being a step above. And to think maturely, to think maturely. And we may be seeing the truth of the fact that this, so here's kind of what I put down. Like I like to think myself whenever is you're upset with me, maybe with the whole world. I'm sorry, I care, but I will not get sucked into the pit with you. We want to be responsive but not reactive, and begin to realize that maybe the things that are being said, maybe the atmosphere, maybe the attitudes, maybe I'm not going to get sucked into it with you. And then asking permission to speak to their comments. Ask permission to speak to, may I make a comment about that? May I let you know how I'm seeing it? And if that, boy, no way, then refrain from giving your input. And I've had things like that happen before. Remember one time in a meeting where we were working out some issues in the business, and the person that was the dominant person in the meeting was making all of these, what we're going to do, going to do, going to do. And I made the comment, I said, may I give some suggestions to that? And the person said, no, you may not. I said, okay. Okay, I'll just sit here and listen to and continue to take notes and so forth. And it was about 3 days later that the person called me on the phone and said, okay, what are your suggestions? And it's not that they were 100% okay, but you know what? It's going to make things worse if you ask to give permission. May I make a suggestion? If they're totally against it, then you know that they're totally against it. And maybe their own wisdom heart can work on them. So we need to make relating more important than opinions. We need to make relating more important than what is the benefit of being right if the relationship is harmed. And so it's showing respect, that we can show respect, but it doesn't mean that we're going to be best buddies or that we're going to, but what we want to do is so that we can work with this person or these people or this group or this whatever to a way that is more humane. And so here is a little quote from George Washington Carver that is just filled with wisdom. How far you go in life depends on several things. Your being tender with the young, compassionate with the aged, sympathetic with the striving, and tolerant of those weaker than you. And then I would say here, his question is, why would we want to do these things? Because someday you will be all of these. There are times that we do not understand the intelligence of others. There are times that, we can't understand the things that have happened and so forth. So when avoid the right-hand lane if you're not turning right. And that's just simply because you never know who's going to be behind you that was really in a hurry and wanted to turn right before you're sitting at the light to ride it out. Mm-hmm. So just to ask yourself some personal questions to see if you are taking things way too personally or not handling them right. So how are you personally changing your corner of the world? Is it improving or not? And what other choices are equally important? I think whenever not taking things personally, it means having more objectivity. Not taking things personally, even though maybe it may sting. It's recognizing the value of each human being and how that the others that are tossing in maybe some really ugly and or contradictory things, they're speaking from their point of view, from their perceptions. And in not taking things personally, how can we have more of calming emotions? And how can we grow a thicker skin or become more tactful so that we can help the rioters, the whomever, to help have a little bit more calm also? And how can a difficult person assist you personally in your own self improvement? Because sometimes that can really work wonders. So, thank you for being here, and many blessings to all. And